Your partner just screamed at you for 20 minutes straight about how you never listen. They called you selfish, inconsiderate, maybe even threw in a few words that genuinely hurt. And then you snapped. You yelled back. You said something cutting, something you knew would land hard. Now they're crying, telling everyone you're the abusive one, and suddenly you're the villain in a story where you were just trying to defend yourself 5 seconds ago. What just happened? If you found that familiar, hit that subscribe button and drop a like so we can keep having these real conversations. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about reactive abuse. And honestly, this might be one of the most misunderstood dynamics in toxic relationships. Here's the basic idea. Reactive abuse happens when someone who's being mistreated finally reacts to that mistreatment, and then the original abuser flips the script and uses that reaction as proof that you're the problem. It's manipulation at its finest. Someone pushes and pushes and pushes until you break, and the moment you break, they point at you and say, "See, you're crazy, you're aggressive, you're the abusive one." And the worst part? Sometimes you start believing them. Sometimes the people around you start believing them too. So let's break down every sign of reactive abuse, because understanding this pattern might be the thing that helps you see your situation clearly for the first time. The first major sign is something called the provocation pattern. This is where someone repeatedly does things they know will upset you. They're not accidentally pushing your buttons. They've studied the control panel. Maybe they flirt with someone right in front of you, then act confused when you get upset. Maybe they bring up that one mistake you made 3 years ago every single time you're in an argument about something completely different. Maybe they give you the silent treatment for days until you're practically begging for a response. The key here is persistence. This isn't a one-time thing. They're creating a pressure cooker environment where your emotions have nowhere to go. They'll deny, dismiss, and gaslight you about what's happening. "I was just being friendly. You're too sensitive. I'm allowed to have space." And here's the sneaky part. They often do this when you're already stressed, tired, or vulnerable. They wait until you've had a horrible day at work, or you're dealing with a family crisis, or you haven't slept well in a week. They know exactly when your defenses are down. Research in psychology shows that this kind of sustained provocation actually changes your stress response system. Your cortisol levels stay elevated, your fight or flight response gets hyperactive, and you become easier to trigger over time. It's not weakness, it's biology responding to an unsafe environment. Eventually, you react. You might yell, you might cry uncontrollably, you might say something harsh, you might slam your door or throw your phone across the room. And the second you do, their entire demeanor changes. Suddenly they're calm, suddenly they're the reasonable one. They might even smile a little because they've got exactly what they wanted: evidence. This is sign number 2, the dramatic shift in their behavior the moment you react. They go from antagonistic to composed in seconds. They might start recording you on their phone. They might call a friend or family member right there and say, "You need to hear how they're talking to me." They document your breakdown like they're collecting specimens for a lab. And you're standing there, heart pounding, feeling completely out of control, wondering how you became this person. Because you're not usually this person. You don't usually scream. You don't usually say cruel things. But they've pushed you so far past your limit that you don't even recognize yourself anymore. One thing people don't talk about enough: reactive abuse often involves a physiological hijacking. Your amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for emotional responses, basically takes over from your prefrontal cortex, which handles rational thinking. You're literally not thinking straight in that moment, and they know it. Sign number 3 is how quickly the narrative changes. Suddenly, everything that led up to your reaction disappears. The context vanishes. The hours or days or weeks of them needling you, insulting you, ignoring you, or manipulating you, irrelevant. All that matters now is your response. They'll tell the story like this: "Out of nowhere, they just started screaming at me. I was trying to have a normal conversation and they completely lost it. I'm actually scared of them." Notice what's missing: their role in the equation. They've erased the entire chain of events that led to your reaction and made it seem like you just spontaneously combusted for no reason. This narrative flip serves multiple purposes. It makes them look like the victim. It makes you look unstable. It confuses anyone who might be watching or listening. And the worst part, it makes you question your own reality. You start thinking, maybe I did overreact. Maybe I am the problem. Maybe they're right to be scared of me. You forget that you were defending yourself. You forget that you were at your breaking point after months of being slowly torn down. Therapists who specialize in trauma will tell you this is one of the most damaging aspects of reactive abuse, the way it makes you doubt your own perception of what happened. It's gaslighting on steroids. Which brings us to sign number 4. You start blaming yourself way more than the situation warrants. You apologize excessively. You promise to work on your anger or be calmer or communicate better. Meanwhile, they don't apologize for anything that led to your reaction in the first place. This self-blame is particularly strong in people who have high empathy and a strong sense of personal responsibility. If you're someone who genuinely cares about being a good person, the thought that you might be abusive is absolutely devastating. So you overcorrect, you walk on eggshells, you monitor every word you say and every emotion you feel. They encourage this, of course. They might say things like, "I'm glad you're finally admitting you have a problem," or "I hope you're serious about changing this time." They position themselves as the patient, long-suffering partner who's graciously giving you another chance. But what's actually happening? They're conditioning you to suppress your reactions to their mistreatment. They're teaching you that standing up for yourself equals being abusive. They're making you smaller and quieter and more compliant. And the cruel irony? The more you try to control your reactions, the more internal pressure builds, which makes you even more likely to eventually explode when they push you again. It's a cycle designed to keep you trapped. The final sign that you're experiencing reactive abuse is that this whole cycle happens over and over again. It's not a one-time occurrence, it's a pattern. They provoke, you react, they flip the narrative, you blame yourself, they isolate you further, and then it starts all over again. Each time it happens, your tolerance for mistreatment gets a little higher. Each time you doubt yourself a little more. Each time the gap between who you actually are and who they say you are gets wider and harder to bridge. People in these situations often describe feeling like they're losing their minds. They can't trust their memory. They can't trust their emotions. They can't trust their perception of reality. And that's exactly the point. Confusion and self-doubt keep you stuck. Breaking this pattern requires recognizing it for what it is. Reactive abuse isn't about you having anger issues or poor communication skills. It's about someone deliberately creating conditions that make you react, then weaponizing that reaction against you. You're not the abusive one for defending yourself after prolonged mistreatment. You're not crazy for having an emotional response to emotional manipulation. And you're not the villain in this story, no matter how many times they rewrite it to make you look like one. So that's reactive abuse in a nutshell. If any of this resonated with you, I want you to know that recognizing the pattern is the first step towards getting out of it. You deserve relationships where you don't have to constantly defend your reality or apologize for having feelings. Drop a comment below if you've experienced this, or if you've seen it happen to someone you care about. Sometimes just sharing your story helps you realize you're not alone in this. And if you found this helpful, share it with someone who might need to hear it. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself.